Alright, so this is a Nove Education podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. As always, I am your host, Nover. Thank you for tuning in. It is Monday morning, January the 22nd, and I hope everybody is doing all right. I hope everybody had a good and safe weekend. It's raining where I'm at, so don't be a dumbass driver, bro. Just drive safe. You guys be safe out there, you know, because as soon as the droplets hit the windshield, for some of you drivers, you just forget how to drive. Like, come on, bro. It's 2024. Relax. You know, trust the ingenuity. I don't even know if I'm using that word correctly, but anyways, yes, we had some football this weekend. We had the divisional round playoffs. Later on this week, I will be previewing the championship games and giving my takes on them. Who do I think is going to take it? And sometime in the near future, I'll go over like, kind of a review of the NFL season. Maybe like break it down into several episodes. We'll go with maybe divisions, maybe teams. I don't know. Might have a guest on. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but maybe come Super Bowl time around there, before or after. Who knows? I don't know yet, but just know that will come soon. Also, we had the UFC ramping up again. So we're going to talk about this past UFC 297 a bit. It was a good card. But for now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's get into these football games, bro. Let's start this shit. On Saturday early morning, we had the Houston Texans, D'Amico Ryans and the Houston Texans, heading into Baltimore to face off Lamar Jackson, Jim Harbaugh's Ravens. And let me first start off by saying this. The Ravens is real, bro. The Ravens are real. They're a combination of great coaching, Super Bowl caliber defense, dynasty caliber defense, right? Without one of their star safeties. They are explosive on offense because of the MVP, who I think is going to win the MVP, in Lamar Jackson. Their run game is studded because they filter out those running backs. I think, I don't want to say the best run game, but it looked damn good against that Texans defense. And coming out of that game, even in the middle of that game, a lot of people were saying that, CJ Stroud's immaturity is showing in the playoffs. And that's real. That's a real thing that does happen. But I just think that the game plan for the Ravens, the bye week, they had much more time to scheme and playbook and develop certain aspects to stop this Texans defense. Whether it had been the Texans or the Browns, the Ravens were scheming for both those teams. And I think it's safe to say that CJ Stroud is probably going to be the rookie of the year. In my opinion, probably the rookie of the year. And it's not that he didn't look, it's not that he was immature in that game or he didn't look good. I think there was a lot of things that were going on that Baltimore defense that was just dismantling the Texans offense, because throughout the whole season for the Texans, they've had tight games. All their games were fun. If you look back at most of their games, even with Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Noah Brown, Don Schultz, and you had the emergence of Devin Singletary, all their games were pretty much highlights. You got CJ Stroud just bombing them, and he looked good. And there was a lot of times where it was crucial downs, and a lot of these one down plays, they can change the tide for the whole game. And there was a lot of third downs. Well, not a lot, but certain third down plays or certain third down false starts or holdings that changed the outcome for the Texans. There was a couple drop passes. There was 2 drop passes, I believe, from Dalton Schultz that were big ones. There were some flags on crucial moments that could have prolonged the drive for the Texans that were big ones that stopped them. And the Ravens just pounced on the opportunity to, take over that game. And Lamar, being the veteran that he is, I would call him a veteran because, yes, he's been here and he looks very comfortable in this offense. He is commanding this offense and it's beautiful to see. So it's going to be exciting to see them go up against their opponent, who I will talk about in a minute. But I still need to see the wide receivers for the Ravens come up a little bit big, because there was some drop passes, some miscommunications with Lamar Jackson, and that core, although it's not a young core, I guess it is a young receiving core, but it is kind of a put together receiving core. And shout out to Isaiah Likely, man, stepping in for Mark Andrews being injured throughout the season. I don't even know if Mark Andrews is coming back. He might come back for the game, but Isaiah Likely has been a badass tight end for Baltimore. And for those of you in fantasy leagues, you guys have known about Isaiah Likely last year, when they were using him, they were scheming him in different type of plays. Although he is a different type of tight end than Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh are able to use him in their own ways, and it's very impactful to the team. So I'm excited to see how this team adjusts and just gets better through this championship game. So it's going to be crazy this Sunday, bro. I'm pulling for the Ravens now. I think everyone is pretty much pulling for the Ravens. They do not want to see the Chiefs win. I think that is the overall consensus, which brings us into the Chiefs versus the Bills. And I had the Bills winning. Yes, I had the Bills winning. I had the Bills taking it to the Super Bowl. And the Bills could have had it. I think in the end, the offensive play calling for the Bills just they threw out their bread and butter. What got them here was a solid run game and solid play actions using Josh Allen in the run scheme. That's what got him here. And then, obviously relying on their defense, which it was a good game all around. Like, don't get me wrong. Kansas City deserved to win this game. But I think that the Buffalo Bills got away from what got them there. They just kind of said, fuck it. Let's just start going to what we used to be doing. And it's I don't want to say that's immaturity from McDermott or from Allen or from anybody. I just think that their tendencies to leave the ball only in Josh Allen's hands, to where every second down, third down, he has to make some type of superhuman play to keep the drive going. And, although that'll work in the season, obviously, come playoff time, it's not going to work, bro. And we've seen it so many times with Buffalo, where they are the dominant force in the AFC, or they get hot at the right time. They make it to the playoffs. They're that squad. And then they just revert back to what they're used to, which is relying on Josh Allen to be that superhero and no one else making plays. So, but although that Kansas City defense, they were stopping that run, they do have a good run defense, but they stepped it the fuck up this game. And although, I keep saying James Cook is not a power back, I would think, being in the league as long as he has already, I believe, 2 seasons? But he's the guy there, and the way that they have schemed him, it worked for him. Where a run game can also be a run through a pass. If you don't know football, so people just normally think, when you run the ball, you hand it off to the running back, and then, they go through the tackles or do whatever they do. But you can also scheme up the run game through a pass, maybe through some screens, through some quick throws, some check downs. That can be a disguised run game. And I didn't see that very much late in the game for Buffalo. I saw them just trying to get the chunks, trying to get the big plays, trying to shut out Kansas City early, when we've seen this story before with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. We've seen this story to where you just let them linger, bro, and they're just going to bite you in the ass. And ultimately, that's what happened. So me and my boy Gamma, my boy Big G, shout out to Big G, you know what I mean? We're talking about is Josh Allen and then these Bills destined to be the bridesmaid, never the bride? And it's looking like it, but it also is kind of similar to like the 90s squad of the Bills, the Jim Kelly era, to where they were a dominant squad. They were a hell of a team. I believe they even made it to the Super Bowl 4 times, and they just never could get it done. Maybe it's the curse in Buffalo. Maybe we got to start talking about that curse in Buffalo, because it seems likely that that's what this is. You know, I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little superstitious. I fucked that up. So, and then of course on the other side, Kansas City, you know, I spoke about this before in the last episode, that if, you know, they're not trying to win every game in the season. They're trying to get to the playoffs, and they're going to be ready to play come playoffs. You've seen it happen. I counted them out, as I'm pretty sure a lot of people did. I counted them out. Yes, I counted the Chiefs out just because of their lack of production throughout the end of that season. If you remember, it wasn't pretty. Like the games they did win, the games they lost, like it wasn't pretty on how they got into the playoffs. And I think in that Miami game in Kansas City, I kind of just threw it out the window because, you know, the weather, that is probably my bad. That's my bad on my part. Professional NFL players, you should be able to play through any type of weather. And if it did have a factor, then whatever. But I think that did also show that unlike the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going way far. Unlike the Dallas Cowboys, the Kansas City Chiefs didn't show all their hands. They didn't show their whole cards throughout the whole season. You know, they did enough to win games, and now is where they start shining. They start to dig in that playbook, formations you haven't seen, different type of scheming of those formations. Now we're starting to see it because this offense looked good. When Kansas City was down, I believe 10-3, and Buffalo had the ball and they were like driving down, I thought it was going to be over until I saw when Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills started to make that team go back to what it's been doing for the past years in the playoffs, which is just trying to give it to Josh Allen to make a superhuman play. And that's not it. But Kansas City, on the other side, they were relying on their playmakers. Travis Kelce had himself a day, you know, where it seemed like in the end of the season, was Travis Kelce showing his age? Is he slowing down? Nah. Nah, he looked good in the passing game, in the run game. He was always there. They knew exactly where they wanted to get their matchups. Rashee Rice looked good. You know what I'm saying? Then Mahomes, of course, being the leader of that team, looked good. Isaiah Pacheco looked good. So, you know, ultimately, and then they went in there in the last drive where Buffalo could have sealed the deal. You know what I'm saying? I think they just folded as far as play calling and coaching wise. And, you know, that's not going to do it, bro. So either Buffalo needs someone else calling their offensive schemes, because their offensive coordinator, I forget his name, they fired him and then they hired a new one mid-season, and it changed around the dynamic of that team, which was good. Maybe they need another playmaker, but there needs to be something different in that Buffalo offense, I'm saying, because that defense is always there. And defenses bend so much before it breaks, ultimately breaks. Even the best defenses break. So, I don't know, Buffalo fans, y'all let me know. I was really rooting for you guys. I thought this was the year that you guys would make it to the Super Bowl, but better luck next year. All right, the NFC side. And then Saturday evening, we had a really fun game, I would say, with the Green Bay Packers going into San Francisco to face the 49ers. And what a fun game that was. We had Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, creme de creme, who LaFleur. We had Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur entering enemy territory after their huge win against the Dallas Cowboys. They looked good. You know what I'm saying? And then early on in the game, it looked like they continued where they left off, to where everything was working. The run scheme was nice. The passing schemes were nice. Receivers were making big plays when they needed to. And it looked like there was going to be another upset. And I said, if the Packers beat the Niners, then I would have the Packers going all the way, just because of how the pieces on their offense, they fit so good right now. They are coming together as far as an offensive play caller's perspective, and their defense were stepping it up at the right times. Props to the Packers defensive line. They were putting pressure on Purdy, bro, and Purdy looked a little bit rattled. I said, if Brock Purdy had a mustache, the mustache would be rattled. But they were putting pressure on that offensive play. That offensive passing game for the Niners, and it became, wow, are the Niners falling apart? But really, what I saw, well, first, number one, we do got to say this, that Deebo Samuel did leave that game early, and he didn't come back. And, you could say, oh, it's one player, they have different stars. If a certain player on your team who is a key role leaves, that is a big hole to fill. Although Jennings did a good job, he made some good plays. He made some big plays. That offensive playmakers on the fucking 49ers offense, they bailed out Purdy in huge ways, bro. Because Purdy did not look ready. He did not look like he knew what he was doing. His timing was off, and that was a big thing in the offseason, to where say that, oh, if you disrupt Purdy's timing, he's not really effective at all, which, now I am a believer of it because they were disrupting his timing. And when you do have a team with a bunch of these studs and whatever, yes, you have these playmakers to make big plays. But if the timing on the offense isn't clicking, I don't care who you are, there's no way that you can progress through a drive, that you can make a touchdown drive, can put a whole drive together, which the Niners have been doing the whole season. Now, in some of their losses, there's obviously a blueprint on how to beat this team, which I think the Packers did a good job in doing so, which is throwing off the timing, putting pressure on Purdy, not letting him get and containing the run game as much as possible, not letting Purdy and his players get hot at the right moment. So there was times where maybe we felt like late in that game where the Packers should have gone for it on fourth down, kind of put their foot on the gas a little bit, because if you give a team like the Niners a chance of just one big play, one big Kittle play, one big McCaffrey run, that momentum can switch. And that is kind of what I seen what happened with this. And of course, Christian McCaffrey, I think he does have a shot to win that MVP as well. But like everybody knows, and like I've said before, the MVP is a quarterback's award. So it is what it is to me. But goddamn, Christian McCaffrey. If they didn't have Christian McCaffrey, they would have lost this game, because that dude did fucking unbelievable things. I don't know if you've seen that. There was multiple runs where he ran it in. But there was one run in particular where it looked flawless. And if you played football before, and if you've been any type of running back or defensive player, you would have seen what that boy did. This dude is a fucking beast, and they are lucky to have Christian McCaffrey. But I also felt like, even though that run defense of the Packers was doing a good job, I still felt like the Niners didn't run the ball as much as they should, bro. Like, I would have ran the ball 3 times, 2 times, just to get that 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, and then, you scheme up something else. Because when you have a player like Christian McCaffrey, he can change the game, which obviously he did. Obviously, Purdy wasn't in it this game. He wasn't clicking, even towards the end in those last few touchdowns. It wasn't necessarily on the back of him. He kind of threw wild balls, big catches by Jennings, big plays by Kittle. Ayuk saved him a few times. You know what I'm saying? And those type of things let me know that, yeah, Purdy and the timing thing is a real situation. And then in the end, we did have a chance for the Packers to come back and possibly win this game. And I think that the momentum, the being in the playoffs, going to the championship, this is the drive, being the heir to Rodgers' throne. I think Jordan Love, like, he did probably feel that pressure a little bit. And that last interception throw was obviously him doing too much. I don't want to say it's immaturity, because he did not look like an immature quarterback in these playoffs, especially even in this game. He looked good. I just think he was just trying to do a little too much. He thought he could fit it. He thought he could do it. But the number one rule, especially even in playoffs, never throw to the middle of the field across your body, because you're going to get picked off. Chances are you're going to get picked off. Fred Warner knew it as soon as that ball was thrown. Had he thrown it out, I think there would have still been a chance for them to go down and get into a somewhat, because Anders Carlson, I believe that's his name, his field goal range is pretty far. Although he missed one, I think his range for the field goal is pretty deep in the field. So hindsight, quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, high school, Pop Warner guys, throw the ball away if you don't have it. There was time. I think that was a second down or a first down, like, interception throw, bro. So either way, we do have the Niners answering the NFC Championship. My predictions are still there with the Niners and the NFC side as far as that. Then we had what a badass game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions, bro. Damn. Yo, they look good. Detroit looks like a team that is ready, that is prepared, and they have all the chance to beat the San Francisco 49ers, especially, excuse me, even if Deebo Samuel is out, they have a huge chance to beat the 49ers in San Francisco. So, Jared Goff looked good. The run game looked good. That defense was good. And on the other side, Tampa Bay looked good as well, bro. I feel like I should give all the props. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Let me drink some water real quick. Stay hydrated. Stay hydrated, ladies and gentlemen. I feel I should give all the props to Baker Mayfield, because some of those plays that he made, the game could have been ended like a little bit early in the fourth. The game should have been ended a little bit early in the fourth, but there were some plays that he made that he was able to do to extend the drive. And this whole season, although the team for the Buccaneers has been streaky, we're talking about the only 9 points versus Carolina, and then you got the numbers they put up today against Detroit and yesterday. I still think that it shows the maturity now of Baker Mayfield. And I've become somewhat of a fan now. Although, because I was not a fan of Baker Mayfield coming into the league, circling the teams, whatever. I wasn't really a fan, but seeing how he is around this team and how it just fits, how everything works, being a team of underdogs pretty much, like, Rachaad White was kind of written off as just like, oh, well, I guess he's just another starting running back. No, Rachaad White has been I want to say one of the better running backs in the league as far as, pass catching as well. But he looked good, bro. He looked good against this run defense that is a stacked defense on the Detroit Lions. He looked good. Mike Evans doing Mike Evans' thing. Chris Godwin, people forget about Chris Godwin because of the injury. He's still recovering from his ACL injury, bro. He showed flashes of him returning. You have that dude Palmer, who's a fucking speedy beast. Kate Auden, who has the great connection with Baker Mayfield. This is a good team, bro. It's a really good team. That defense is good. So being in the NFC South, don't really like that. Don't really like that as a Saints fan, but I do like that Baker Mayfield is maturing and being a leader in this squad, which you got to give that props. But ultimately, the Detroit Lions, they came out with the dub, and they just look on fire. Amon-Ra St. Brown, to me, right now, looking like the best receiver in the playoffs. Maybe we can argue this. We can argue this. I mean, who's better than Amon-Ra right now? Who's better than maybe Sam Laporta? And it just, those two players alone, they put the team on their back and said, we're going to win this game, which is good. Jared Goff, you got to give props to Jared Goff too, being in command. Looks like he's found a home. And Dan Campbell and that defense, it's going to be a tough game, but it's going to be a fun game. Hopefully I don't work this Sunday because I really do want to see these two games. I think it'll be fun and memorable games, actually, like real shit. So we're going to see the outcome of those games. I will have the preview a little bit later this week. We do have a fight night on Saturday, but we might go over that. Who knows? And then basketball is ramping up. Maybe we'll talk a little bit of Kings, but right now we do got to get into this fight real quick. Dricus du Plessis becomes the middleweight champion of the world, defeating Sean Strickland by a split decision. First and foremost, bro, let's just say this. What a fucking fight. What a badass fight. I know at the end of this, Dricus, he called out Izzy. Obviously, that's what it was. But I would not mind seeing this fight again, bro. This was a badass fight. Beginning, I had Strickland winning, and I still, in the end, like I didn't rewatch it yet, but looking back at it, I still kind of think Strickland pulled it out. But, there's different aspects going into it. The fight was in Toronto, so, there's probably different ways of pointing the fights and, all this went into it. So, but Strickland, that jab, I felt like was the key role in Strickland's victory, and they both look good. Both fighters were very different. And when Dricus seemed like he was starting to slow down, Strickland's jab started to not show up as much, which I think it helped out Dricus du Plessis a little bit more towards the end. And there was people, myself included, bro. I'm not going to disclude myself too, even though I did say Dricus' stamina is way better. I was one of those people saying like, hey, we don't know. We haven't seen him in a 4 or 5 round fight. And come third, second round, dude's already gassed out. Third round, early fourth round, he did look a little gassed, but then he kind of ramped it up and he kept the pace, which was very interesting to me because dude is a big boy. Dricus is a big boy, man. Sean Strickland was cut. I believe he was cut in the head and the eye. And ultimately, when you're looking at a fight, damage does a lot for the judges as well. Watching it at home and watching the fight in real life is different, bro. It's very different. So, yeah. And it was cool to see the camera in South Africa of his hometown. That was dope to see. So, yeah, I would love to see a rematch. I can't wait if there is a rematch because word on the block, Izzy is supposed to be taking this time off. I don't know for how long, but I would like Izzy to take a little bit more time off, as much as he needs. You know what I'm saying? Because if he comes back and isn't the same and he fucks himself up, that's one of the greats right now, one of the legends in the game, and you hate to see that type of thing happening. So I would like to see Izzy versus Pereira again. Maybe Izzy goes up and, has that storyline for him. That would be fun, but I think the fight to make is probably the rematch. And then we're going to see what happens in that middleweight division right now. We do have a couple fight nights coming up, but in UFC 298, this is February 17th. This is a badass card, bro. We got Volkanovski versus Topuria for the chip. We have Whitaker versus Costa, which is always fun. Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary, which we should have had already. We have Merab Davishvili versus Henry Cejudo. And we have Ikram Aliskerov, he's the fool who just fought Sean Strickland on his last fight versus Anthony Hernandez. So it should be a pretty good, fun card. Justin Taffa is also on that card. And then the big one in March, which is, I believe, in Miami, we have Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera. You already know who I'm going. And then we have the big banger of a fight. This next one should be, I hope it's a 5-round fight, which I doubt it's going to be because it's not a chip. It's not a main event. It's the Dustin Poirier versus the Benoit Saint Denis. If you have not seen Benoit Saint Denis fight, bro, go look at some highlights. Go look at this dude's fights. This is going to be a banger of a fight. And, shout out to Dustin for taking this fight. That's all I got to say. And we got my boy Jailton Almeida fighting up against Curtis Blades, the gatekeeper right there in that heavyweight division. I think if Almeida wins this fight, he's probably up to be the chip for the next champion. You know what I'm saying? We have RDA versus Matisse Gamrot, Pedro Munoz versus Kyler Phillips. This is a stacked out. Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della. We have Peter Young versus Song Yadong. Kevin Holland versus Michael Venom Page making a debut in the UFC. Damn. This is UFC ramping up. I know it was a little slow because, there wasn't really fights, but it was off season for UFC. And now it's going to be starting to ramp up all the way up until the UFC 300. Supposedly, UFC 300 is not finished as far as the card. There's some more big names, but right now, as I'm seeing some big names, we have the Gaethje Holloway, which I don't like this fight. Yes, they're big names, but I don't like this fight. I don't like this fight because they're in two different divisions. Gaethje's on his way up. Holloway is probably on his last leg to his chip, and he can probably get another shot at the title. If Topuria beats Volkanovski, Holloway can probably be next for that title, bro. Like, I don't know why this fight was made. Maybe, there's other fighters who are not fighting, but whatever. We have Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan. This is going to be a badass fight. Then we have another dude. I don't know if anybody has been making noise about this fight, but in the light heavyweight division, we have Yuri Prohaska versus Alexander Rakic. Probably don't remember who Alexander Rakic is because he got injured on his way up, ascending up into that division. And now he's back. We have Bo Nickel coming into it. Charles Oliveira versus Armin Shakurzian, which should be a badass fight. Davison Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt, fan favorites. And then we have Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. This is going to be a good card. I need someone else. I need some other names in this fight card in order for it to be the UFC 300 that we think. We already know Connor's not going to fight in this card, so which I wasn't really expecting that, but here we are, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you again for tuning in. Sorry about the background noises. I appreciate you guys. Hit me up if you guys have any questions. Let me know. Leave a comment wherever you do it, wherever you're listening. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Appreciate you guys. Love y'all. Peace.
All right, so this is a No Education podcast.